Okay, so just as a review, yesterday you were supposed to do a quiz on quizzes, and I explained in the video, if you watched it like you were supposed to, how to sign into quizzes and to take the quiz over your novel. If you did not do that, then you need to get that done. You also, on Friday, had a CFA to do on GoFormative, which I know a lot of you did not do. So I will write on the board the GoFormative for you, so you can make sure you get that done. And then you were supposed to do a reflection, just a quick reflection for me on what you're not understanding in reading, so that I can go back and look at that and see what we need to work on and what we don't need to work on, that sort of thing. And then you were supposed to read chapters for your book. That was yesterday. Remember, we are doing something new every single day. So when you're in class, obviously you'll do it here in class. When you're at home, you need to look on Canvas at 9:30, 10 o'clock, once I get it loaded, to see what exactly the lesson is. Watch me teach the lesson so that you guys can get it done, all right? So that's how we're doing things. Okay, so I've been grading Canvas. By the way, midterms come home next week on Wednesday and Thursday. So we're halfway through the grading period already. Halfway through the third grading period already, it's crazy. So I was looking at your Canvas, I've been grading Canvas, been going through some things, and I noticed that some of you really are struggling with questioning. Questioning is when you ask questions either when you're done reading or before you start reading. And we talked about thick versus thin questions, and I kind of explained thick questions are questions you need to think about, but I don't think you quite understood because your questions were not all that great. So we're going to review thick questions and thin questions. So thick questions, and then let's see. I'm going to use green for thin. Okay, thick versus thin. And when I say that we're going to do questioning, these are the sort of things that I'm going to be looking for. So I'm going to give you some ideas. Remember, a thick question is a question that makes you think and search. So a thick question makes you think about it and search in the text or search your background knowledge or whatever the case may be. Where a thin question, the answer is a right there question. The answer is right there. Okay, does that make sense so far? Are you guys with me so far? So thin questions are questions like, who is the main character? When did the story take place? Where did the story take place? Okay? What happened? Those are all super easy answers. They're right there. It's easy to tell you who the main character is. It's easy to tell you when the story takes place or where. Like if I'm doing Al Capone does my shirts, we all know it takes place on Alcatraz Island. There's a picture, it's obvious. That's the only location of the entire story, right? So that is a thin question. That's a really easy question to answer. There's no searching that needs to happen or take place. Where instead of saying something like, what happens, you can make someone think by saying, what if blank, blank, blank? What if Al Capone escaped, right? Now you have to think about it. You have to use details from the text. You have to use your background knowledge. Instead of just saying, why is Al Capone in jail, right? That's easy. You can ask, why did Al Capone do the things he did to end up in jail? Why did that happen? All right? Or you can ask questions like, what would happen if blank, 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 right? It's more you're having to think, what would happen if Al Capone escaped? What would happen if the boy in the story, Moose, decided he hated it there? What would happen if, right, if we're talking about Christmas Carol, what would happen if Scrooge didn't change like he did? So you're having to think a little bit more. You're also asking why things happen or about characters. Why did the character, and then a certain action or a certain thing they said. Now you're having to think about their actions, their words, their relationships with other people. That's a thicker question. Or if you're asking what caused something. What caused that character to do it? What caused that action to occur? You're asking harder questions. There's this thing called Bloom's, and we've talked about this, higher level questions, right? So there's different levels. The first level is kind of this knowledge, which is memorization and comprehension, right? Those are the kinds of questions. Again, these thin questions you'll have to answer some of, right? But for the most part, these are the kinds of questions you answered in first, second, third, fourth grade. These are the kind of questions you're going to start answering. You have to answer the basic questions. You have to answer the basic questions. You have to be able to answer those in order to answer these, right? But when I say to do questioning, these are the sort of things I want you to do. You can use any of these. I also will have this with me that if you want to borrow it, and you can look at the level 5. The level 5 is synthesis. Where else do we see the word synthesis? Step 5 in making an inference, right? So that's kind of that same thing. That's that questioning, all right, that goes with step 4. So these are types of questions. What would happen if? Can you elaborate on the reason blank? Can you propose an alternative? Can you invent? How would you change the plot? What could be done to maximize or minimize something? So these are all sorts of questions that you can use if you want. I'll have this with me in my little bin. So while you guys are doing questioning, if you want to borrow it and take a look at it, you may. Or you can use, like I said, these, or you can come up with some on your own. That's fine too. So we're going to do our questioning activity again today. So I will activate Canvas here in a minute, but you guys all should know what you had to read yesterday, and you're just going to continue reading today. And before you read, though, I want you guys to do questioning before you read. So you're not going to ask questions over what you've read. You're questioning what you are going to learn about. What are you thinking about when you get starting to read? So, for example, you might write down a question like, let's say I'm reading Christmas Carol, which again, you guys have all been familiar with, right? And we are to the part where let's pretend we just read where he came back from the ghost of Christmas past. So the ghost of who shows up next? Present, right? We kind of know that. But let's say he just came back from the ghost of Christmas past and he's waiting. My questions before I start reading might be something like, what if the ghost of Christmas present doesn't show up? What if Scrooge refuses to go with the ghost of Christmas present? Or what would happen if the ghost of Christmas present takes him to his nephew's house, or takes him to Bob Cratchit's house, which we know he ends up doing, right? But I don't know that yet because I haven't read it. Why did the character hate Christmas so much? Maybe we'll find out some more information about that. So I'm going to be asking these questions before I start reading. Then as I read, I'm going to put down details that help me answer that question. So I say, why did the character hate Christmas? Well, we find out why he hates Christmas, don't we? Right? So remember you guys needed to do like a T-chart. So you're going to make a T-chart with your questions and then your details. So I will re-put this chart on Canvas that you guys will make a copy of and fill it out. So if my question is, why did Scrooge hate Christmas? If that's one of my questions, as I'm reading, I'm going to say, people, as the story goes with the Ghost of Christmas Present, people talk bad about him while they are celebrating Christmas, right? Ghost of Christmas Present, he only has a nephew. He doesn't have any other family. So I'm going to make note of some details as I read that help me answer the questions I pose before I read. So I'm not necessarily answering the question because it's a thick question. It doesn't have an obvious answer. I'm just putting details that give me insight onto why that was occurring. So that is what you guys are doing today. You're redoing your question, not redoing, but we're going to practice questioning some more. All right, does this make sense? Does this help clarify? So what I ask for you to do is to take, once I'm done, I'll turn off my recording here in a second, take a picture of this poster, because this is going to be an anchor chart that's going to be helpful. And remember how I told you guys to create a folder for anchor charts as we take them in your Google Drive? So I told you to do one for writing. I suggest doing one for reading. I would take a picture of this. I would take a picture of all of ours, the fix-up strategies, all of the posters that we do for reading. I would take a picture of those so that you can use them, but especially this one that will be helpful, okay? Any questions? All right, give me like 10 minutes to get the Canvas activated for you guys because I want to get this video uploaded too. And then you guys can go ahead and start. You can, if you did not do the quiz from yesterday in quizzes, I would start there and get that quiz done for sure.